Okay, Willie, thanks for sending me your swinging, mate. I've just been to your website. You're obviously into this online instruction stuff as well. So if I can be of any assistance, or you want to know how I've set things up, or how I go about things, or I don't know, maybe that's why you've got this why you've got this online lesson, just to see how I go about things. But yeah, if you want to talk any further, or you want you want to know how I do things, or want some advice on how I set it up, just feel free to shoot me an email. I'll try and answer it as best I can. So yeah, I think you've got a great move, mate. But I've got some pretty. I've just been looking out for the last minute or two, and I've got some pretty good ideas, and I hope it helps you out. So I mean, in a nutshell, I mean, you're absolutely spot on with regards to what you were saying. Let's get some lines up here with what you sent in your email. You know, you're definitely lacking in body turn, in shoulder turn. You know, you're definitely lacking in. You know, as you get up to the top, there's just a little bit lacking in turn up here, right? Great lag. As you come down to the ball, you know, and I'm just looking at your upper body and your hands and arms. But through the shot here, you can see how you're just losing that pressure point in between both hands, aren't you, here? So, you know, it's that pressure point number one, where your right palm is against your left thumb. Okay, so pressure point number one, right palm against your left thumb. And through the shot there, it just looks as though it's coming away, right? You just look as though there, your right palm, the heel pad of your right hand isn't against your left thumb anymore, right? So, you know, you're obviously a good player and teacher. So, you know, if you can kind of keep that pressure a little bit more, that's going to stop your flip, right? And you're obviously trying to draw it by flipping it, right, and closing that club face through the shot. Whereas, you know, what I would teach you would be, well, there's the target line. I mean, to draw it, all you need is the path going that way, right? But the club face there, right? So the club face is open to the target line, but closed to the path, right? So let's say the red line is the club face, yellow line is the path, and what you'll find is the ball's going to start off very close to the club face line, club face aim, and then just draw back to the target. We don't need this unnecessary flip, right? And of course, the other problems which it's causing are, you know, lack of forward shaftling and impact, and also low point control. You can see there's very little divot. Right, so there's very little divot after the ball. It's kind of like you're just catching it crisp off the deck, right? And you can see out here just how much flip there is with that right hand. So that would be my first big sort of issue that I'd work on you with, right? Sort of that club head is out racing your hands too much. Don't forget the centrifugal force releases the club head, right? We don't have to help it, right? And when we help it, what tends to happen is this kind of club head throwaway, where it just outraces it, and we're just helping it instead of kind of holding on to it, right? So I think your low point, you're going to suffer with your low point control, right? We want the low point here, which is underneath your left shoulder, right? Or should I say here, underneath your left shoulder, right? Which is obviously after the ball. Now, if we pull up someone like Mac O'Grady, I've been doing some great video analysis of Mac O'Grady recently. You know, really kind of in tune with the swing model that I've got going on. So you can, I mean, we'll talk about what your body's doing in a minute, right? But you can see as he comes, I mean, he's got the lag, right? The club head drops down, builds up that pressure in the first joint of his trigger finger in the right hand there, much like what you do, right? There, great move. But as he comes down, he doesn't chase it with the right hand. It doesn't chase it, right? So you can see at impact, he's got more forward shaft lean. The divot occurs after the ball. I mean, look at the stress in the shaft now. I mean, the shaft is going that way, right? And then he's holding on to it. Right, you look at that. So, I mean, with regard to drills and exercises, you know, your great drill for you would be, well, get a T-peg in between your right palm and your left thumb, right? And also your right hand looks a little weak as well, doesn't it? So you can kind of bring that back a little bit. That's going to help the overall sort of model. But then there, certainly when we slow that down there, you look at that, right? I mean, I can almost see your left thumb there, right? But also look at the angle of it, right? You look at your right arm, and you look at your right wrist now, and you look at his right arm and his right wrist. I mean, it's the opposite of what you've got. He's still got that bent right wrist, right? So that after impact, it's almost like this flying wedge with that angle. Whereas if your right hand flicks it, right, you've got the opposite, right? So that would be my first thing. Lots of drills practicing this Mako Grady position, right? Flying wedge position there, flying wedge with the right arm, because you're losing your pressure point in this right, in between your right palm and your left thumb, pressure point number 1, right? And then there's too much flick, right? So if you can maintain that pressure point and drive your hands a little bit more and try not to release it, I think that's really going to help your ball striking a lot, right? And like I said, you don't need to flick your hands over to draw it. You just need the path more to the right than the club face, and then the ball will draw, has to draw, right? Because the club face is close to the path. But if we look at setup position with your body, right? Because I've got some opinions with what's going on with your body. So let's look at the difference first and foremost. His left foot is flared out more, right? His legs go out. His knees are outward, right, rather than inward with yours. Okay, you look as though your knees are tucked inward. So it's kind of like you're trying to get your knees together here, whereas you can see how his knees are actually separated wider, right? So it's that outward pushing motion of his knees. And that's what we're after, right? And obviously he's got forward shaft lean at the start, whereas your shaft is just vertical. Makes sense? And then with regards to your body turn, I think what we've got to practice is, there's obviously a movement to the right, right? So if we look at your head and your right leg, right, there's definitely a little bump there with your right pocket, but there's definitely a bump with your head, right? You can see your left ear is moving away from that red line, right? We draw a line down from Mako Grady's. You can see how it doesn't move, right? It's still on there, right? So that's a big thing, right? So the whole thing with this modern golf swing and is staying centered. Well, what do you have to feel to stay centered, right? And the feeling is obviously a little bit more weight in this forward leg, not a lot, right? And the best way to think about it would be just set up, bend over normally, and just bump your hips 1 inch closer to the target, right? Then that puts a little bit more weight on this leg. That's the best way to think about it. And that takes care of yourself, right? Now, with regards to your turn, you're turning, but you're forgetting the other 2 elements. Don't forget the body and the way the body pivots is 3-dimensional. There's the turning aspect, but there's also the extending aspect and the side tilting aspect, right? So we want to extend, we want to turn, and we want to tilt, right? Very, very important, right? extend, tilt, and turn. 3-dimensional. It's not just a turn, right? It's a tilt and it's an extension as well. Very, very important. So what do I mean by tilt and extend? Well, you've got to try and feel as though your spine is doing the opposite to what you're doing, right? At the top of your swing, your spine is very much going this way, right? Your head's moved to the right, your spine's that way. Whereas what Mako Grade is feeling here is he's feeling as though his spine's going to the left. He's feeling as though his spine is tilting to the left. Make no mistake, right? So the best way to think about it would be your left shoulder just moving straight down to start your move, right? Straight downwards, boom, there you go. And then as he starts moving, so if you move your left shoulder straight down with trying to feel as though his spine's going this way, so he's going to feel as like his head's going this way as well, straight away look at his position there with his left arm parallel with the ground. Right, so that takes care of your turn as well. Right, so your turn by this point is that much, his turn at this point is that much. And let's pull up someone more recent, right? Someone who's better kind of, someone who does the opposite of what you do, right? This guy's a guy named Troy Matheson, plays on the PGA Tour, coached by Mike Bennett and Andy Plummer, right? But let's just look at the differences. I mean, look at the difference in forward shaft lean at the start. He's definitely got more weight on this left leg, right? And then if he's feeling as though his left shoulder is moving straight down, right? He's feeling as though his spine's tilting that way. Watch what happens as he goes back. And look how much upper torso turn he's got there. See, I mean, he's already got his shoulders to 90 degrees, right? And his left arm's already only in position 3, P3, right? Compared to yours. You see what I mean? So look how much of his back he's turning, facing the target compared to yours. So I think that's a big issue as well. Great, great person to copy would be Steve Elkington, right? And this was him. This was him when he was working with again Mike Bennett and Andy Plummer. I think in 2008, 2009, something like that. So they've obviously got him doing a drill there where he's tilting to the left, his head's going to the left, right, and he's doing that in his practice swing, right. This is his manager, this is his caddy, right. So he's obviously in practice round or pro-am or something, but he's feeling that. Now look at the angle of his spine, right. He's definitely built up a little bit more weight in his left leg, right. But then in his actual swing, right, he's got the same outfit on, right, that blue kind of slip over. But if he then takes that feeling into his swing, right, watch his head. Well, that's not moving now. That is centered, right? That's impressive. Tilts away a little bit, coming through, right? Tilts his head back a little bit. That's a fault, you know. We don't want your head going back that way. But if you take this feeling on the left into your actual swing where you don't move your head, right? Look at that. I mean, that's good. And look how his right hip has moved away from this red line as well. Right, watch how he moves his right hip away from that red line. So that's impressive. So what I would like to see your swing, Willie, is a little bit of that, right? A little bit more of that. You know, there's too much emphasis on loading up in your right leg. Too much, like very old fashioned stuff, right? Load up in your right leg, move to the right to a little bit, right? A little bit of a bump there, right? Whereas you can see all these guys, they're doing the opposite, right? They're feeling more of this. And if you look at, I mean, this guy does it this guy really does it excessively. Right? If we look at we look at his right leg. I mean, watch his right pocket and his right leg move away from that red line. Look at that. Look at the space he's built up there now. Look at the space he's built up between his straighter right. It doesn't lock, right, but it's definitely straighter. And you look at, right, and you watch your right leg. You see what I mean? You see how by that first bit there, you're already in trouble, aren't you? You're already in trouble. Whereas you look at his first bit, it's shoulder down, right hip and tailbone move back behind him, boom. So even that first bit, I mean, look how much he's turned compared to how much you've turned, you know. So a lot of emphasis has to be on this left shoulder just going straight down, I think. Left shoulder moves straight down, shaft angle more forward at the start, a little bit sort of stronger with the right hand here, and then just go through the elk drill, try and tilt your spine that way, try and get your head moving that to the left, because at the moment it's going opposite, at the moment it's moving to the right. And you can see how that kind of affects your turn, it affects your rotation. And I think it's because you're not understanding the side tilting and extending aspect of the move, But if we stop you there, compared to where he is, right, and you look at this build up into his forward leg, the anchor of the swing, and you look at how much weight you've got on this right leg going back, totally different, right? Totally different. So I think with regard to drills, that flying wedge drill, like we saw Mac O'Grady, get a T-peg in between your right, the heel pad of your right hand, right palm, and your left thumb, right, and just keep it there. And then obviously the side tilting and moving your head to the left. I think that's an excellent drill for you. And obviously just a little bit more sort of forward shaft lean at the start. But if you can practice those drills, Willie, and then kind of get it on camera just so you can see the difference, right? And then get on YouTube, pull up these guys like Troy Matterson and Mac O'Grady and all these guys with great modern centered golf swings. I think that's really going to help you, right? Because when he comes down, look how, boom, I mean, that's, as he hits it there, I mean, again, that's forward shaft lean, right? And this guy doesn't hang on to it as well as Mac O'Grady, right? But even there, right, I can still see his glove, and he's kept his right hand against his left thumb. Can still see his glove, can still see his glove, can still see his glove. Now it's kind of covered his glove. Whereas when you come down, how quick does your right hand cover your glove? Your left hand kind of there. You see what I mean? It's just too flippy. Just too flippy. We don't have to flip it to shape the shot. Alright, Willie, so I hope that helps, mate. Any questions? If you want to get some questions going back and forth, please send me an email and we'll go from there. Alright, bud. Thanks very much. Bye.